CQ calling CQ the Old Friends Net. CQ the Old Friends Net. This is WA4LLR Dave in Burnsville, North Carolina, calling CQ the Old Friends Net. This net meets 3 times weekly on this frequency, Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 8 a.m., Sunday evenings at 5 p.m. The net is conducted in the Amplitude Modulation mode, carried out in the roundtable format. Any station capable of generating an AM signal is welcome to participate. So we will take a list and get the net started. So stations wishing to participate in the net today, give WA4LLR a call and come now.
N4LQ. WB4ARK.
KZ4 Bravo.
WB4NKL.
KN4R.
W4MEC.
Okay, that last one was a good carrier with no modulation.
K4JAL, tuning up, Dave, sorry.
No problem, Jimmy. Sounding good. All right, let me go down the list of who I have thus far. I have N4LQ, WB4ARK, KZ4B, WB4NKL, KN4R, W4MEC, and K4JAL. Do we have any others?
K4JA.
George came after John.
George came after KZ4B.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put George in there. K4. Okay, we got George in there. Now, do we have any others? Alrighty, let me run down the list one more time. N4LQ, WB4ARK, KZ4B, K4GDN, WB4NKL, KN4R, W4MEC, and K4JAL. Anyone else? Okay, good morning to everybody. We've got about 66 degrees, overcast. Had just over a third of an inch of rain, about 0.37 in the rain gauge. And looks like it's going to be kind of an overcast day. Running the Johnson Viking 500 and receiving on the NC183D. So, Steve, here it comes. N4LQ, WA4LLR.
WA4LLR's N4LQ. Well, good morning. Looks like a sunny day is in store. According to the report, 85 degrees in Shelby. And right now it's 72 and feels real good outside. And I am on the Johnson Challenger and the AL82 amp, about 250 watts. And I'm getting ready to try to find some attenuators. I've got a 3 and a 6 dB attenuator, and I figured it out. If I get 2 1 dB attenuators, then I'll be able to come up with a combination of anything from 1 to 11 dBs with those 4 attenuators. And that gives me a little more flexibility as to what I can use to drive the amplifier. And a switching system would be nice, but a little messy, I believe. Anyhow, I'd like to buy a bunch of those chips, those attenuator chips, that you affix them to a heatsink, and they can handle 100 watts. That would be a nice arrangement. Anybody ever see or use those things? So, buddy, over to you, WB4ARK, N4LQ. N4LQ, WB4ARK. Okay, Steve. Well, the weather here, we had 0.05 inches of rain yesterday. Kind of a little shower local here. I don't think it rained anywhere else, according to the data put into the Coco Ross group. And looks like it's going to be an overcast day. Pretty gloomy out there right now. So we'll deal with what we have to deal with. We got a KWM2 sitting here on the workbench to be checked out from Butch Gibbons. And so we'll do that in the next day or so. We've got it partially checked out, but we got a little bit more to go on it. Basically, it's all in very good condition, very good condition. So I guess that's about it for right now. So over to KZ4B, WB4ARK.
Okay, WB4ARK and the group KZ4B. Fine business, buddy. We got, I'm on the usual T150, driving the AL82. And yesterday we got our grass cut, and I almost needed to bush hog, and it was only 6 days or after having been cut before. All this rain really did the trick, because the yard was just about dead, and then it went crazy. It was sunny with cumulus clouds yesterday. Beautiful day yesterday. We'll see how today goes. And we are listening on the Helicrafters SX-117 with a BHI DSP speaker to see how it compares with the PR30. And as far as mitigating the noise from my garbage noise neighborhood. So, with that note, we will pass it on over to George, K4GDN in the group, KZ4B, over.
KZ4B in the group is K4GDN. I think everybody real well this morning here in Myrtle Beach. It's overcast. I think it's in the upper 70s now. Yesterday was a very humid day. I've been so much outside and doing other things, changing oil in my truck. And that was really a sweaty job. We haven't had any rain now for a couple of days. We had some last week, and the grass is doing quite well. And I don't think we're expecting any rain today or tomorrow, but later on in the week, it looks like we may have some thunderstorms. The biggest thing right now, as far as the weather is concerned, is the concern on the waves and possible rip currents on the beach because of the hurricane that's out there moving around. Sure glad it decided to turn and go out to sea. We sure don't need any of that out here. And we are having some flooding due to some of the rain that happened last week, I guess. The Walkamaw River has been covered up a bit, but where I am, I don't see it. But Conway did have some problems. We're running the Helicrafters HT32B, receiving on an SX-100. And I think Charlie mentioned on one of his emails here maybe a few weeks back that he had to change some tubular ceramics in his SX-100. And I think I mentioned before, I've never really had much confidence in them. And when I was going through my SX-100, if I saw one and I could get to it, I sure changed it. Anyway, with that, I'll pass it on to, let's see, it goes to Cliff, WB4NKL in the group, K4GDN. Okay, George, K4 GDN, SWB4NKL. Good copy there on you this today. Not super strong, but you're above the noise level and read you 100%. Got 70 degrees here, and I don't know if they're calling for rain or not, but got the yard mowed yesterday, and I'm like John, it'd been 6 days since I'd mowed it, and it was just about out of control. But it's been that way all summer here. We never did have a dry period. It's rained the month of July and August. Just about every time you turn around, it seems like it's raining. Different season than normal. Running the BC 610 here, and like I say, BC 610E, and everybody's coming in great. Brian, I enjoyed the AWA article, and I'm glad you got the antique stuff. That worked out good. KN4R WB4NKL.
Okay, Cliff. Very good. WB4NKL in the group. KN4R. Good morning to all. Brian here on the Globe Champ 350, about 200 watts, listening on the R390A. And I thought I'd write that down before I forgot it, Cliff, and I hope I got it right. I couldn't remember if you helped me lug that beast over to my booth or someone else, but I'm pretty sure you assisted, and I really appreciate it. So looking forward to Shelby. I see the flea market spots are $20 this year instead of $15. And like Jimmy said, I sent an email, a buddy of mine emailed about golf carts. So I sent the lady an email and just to see if they're still available, and apparently they are for $80 a day or so. So anyway, looking forward to Shelby. So over to you, Charlie. W4MEC in the group, KN4R.
KN4R and the old friends, W4MEC. Good morning, fellas. Well, this drizzly here, it's been, even though the forecast people have said no rain since Saturday, it has rained every single day, at least a half an inch. And was raining yesterday afternoon and last night, and it's drizzling right now, overcast. So much for forecasting. Probably that weatherman stone, you know, that story about the stone there. If it's wet, it's raining. If it's dry, it's sunny. I think that has a little more accuracy. And I guess you can tell I'm running the ART 13 today. We're receiving on ISX129X. No, HQ129X. I don't know. Keep transposing those sometimes. Let's see, even though I cut my son's yard and my yard on Saturday, there's one part that I couldn't cut because it was so thick, nothing would go through it, and the lawnmower, the dried mower, the tractor won't go through there because it's too many stumps. So I couldn't, I had to get, yesterday morning I got out there with my weed eater with my saw blade on it, and I cut all that grass down, and then yesterday afternoon I went out and raked it all up, and then I could actually use a lawnmower to cut it. So, so we did that and finally finished that mess up. And his air conditioner quit last night. There was an air handler in the house, and he knew what the problem was. He's out in Oklahoma, so he gives me a call on the phone and says his air handler quit. He can look at his house with his computer over the internet. And he turned the system off, so he said, go up there and tap this relay. So I go up in the attic and open the side of it, and he tells me which one to tap, so I tap on it, and he sends a command, turns the air conditioner back on. I said, okay. So you think about going in the attic in the middle of the afternoon and cooking up there, but he insulated everything, the roof, the walls. Well, it's a good size attic that I can stand up in. And the floor, the roof, everything, and it was amazingly cool up there, even in the blasting sun. So I wish I could do that to mine, but I can't get into the corners far enough. So let's see, Jimmy, K4JAL in the group, W4MEC.
W4MEC, K4JAL. Well, your son is lucky to have a dad that comes and mows for him. It's reversed. George down there on the coast, if I were you, George, I'd be moving on up country. Maybe you're protected there some way. Maybe it won't be as bad down there in Charleston. I don't know what's going on around here today. It'll probably rain. We need rain right here in Burnsville. One of my lawns looks like it's dead. Might be. Back over to you, Dave. WA4LLR, K4JAL.
Okay, Jimmy, fine business. K4JAL, WA4LLR. All righty, do we have any other check-ins for the old friends? Come now. All right, I guess we've got it for today. Anyway, well, Jimmy, I don't know, that's interesting because we've had rain and the yard's growing to beat the band here, and we're only what, 3 miles apart, airline, if that much. It's the rain has been up in here. The rain has been isolated. I mean, you'll have somebody getting 5 inches, and 2 miles down the road they may get half an inch or none at all. It's really strange. Mr. Charlie, the ART-13 sounds good. I like to hear that alternator winding up. And sorry you had to crawl in the attic, but glad it wasn't too stifling hot. Brian, the Globe Champ 350 sounds good. Looking forward to Shelby as well. Dreading the setup, but you know, you're going to dance, you pay the fiddler. What the heck? Cliff 610E sounds wonderful. George Hallicrafters is making it. You're not rock crushing up here, but doing pretty good when the QSB doesn't take you down. And praying that storm doesn't do you, a lot of damage down there for sure. John, good deal on finally getting your grass cut. Well, let's see. You said it'd only been 6 days. Yeah, this year that's a long time between cuts. And glad you got the SX117 going. And as always, the 150 sounds super. Buddy, good luck with the KWM2 for Mr. Butch. Tell that varmint to get on the radio once in a while. Lord, I've not heard him and I don't know when. And Steve, good luck getting all those attenuator combos made up. Yeah, I'd like to get something to run the T150 with my SB220. It just drives the fool out of it, and I don't want to drive it that hard. And even running it, the old trick of running the Cantina in parallel does not cut it down enough to where I'm not, running 400 or 500 watts. So I'd like to find something to attenuate mine further. Let's see, what else is going on? This week is the week to put the finishing touches on getting ready for Shelby. We will probably, if things work out, we'll probably be going down this coming Sunday afternoon after church, try to get the tent set up, and then coming down either Monday or Tuesday with the camper. So we'll see how that plays out. Space weather today is pretty calm. Sunspot count is sunspot count is 72. Solar flux index is 114 and the K is 2. Few items of interest in history. On this day in 1909, the first race was held at Indy. On this day in on this day in 1871, Orville Wright was born. On this day in 1960, Russia launched Sputnik 5, which was the first spacecraft to carry animals into space and bring them back alive. 2 dogs, a rabbit, 40 mice, 2 rats, and 15 containers of fruit flies. Oh, me. Okay, what else? Let's see, on this day, 1812, Old Ironsides earned its name. the USS Constitution in a battle with the British. Came through on this day in 1953, a CIA-assisted coup overthrew the government of Iran. Yeah, we've been having good results from that for sure. On this day in 1960, spy pilot Francis Gary Powers was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment in Russia after they shot down his U-2. So, that's enough from this day in history. Here it comes, Steve, N4LQ, WA4LLR.
WA4LLR. This is N4LQ. Yeah, I'm just trying to get the speed of that 1909 Indy race up here on the internet. 2.5 mile speedway. Yeah, well, there's somewhere on this website is a list of speeds that they obtained, but yeah, 90 horsepower. Okay. Well, anyway, I'll find it later. Just curious. Let's see here. Charlie, you mentioned the attic of your son's house being insulated, and I thought that would be a good idea, maybe. I think they spray foam. I wonder if that's what he's got, is spray foam insulation on the underside of the roof. And the only thing I wonder about is what would it do to the shingles? Would that make them hotter and deteriorate faster? Or would it keep them cooler and make them last longer? I have to look that up someday. But it would be nice to have a cool attic, and you could just I think they don't ventilate those at all. I think they're sealed up airtight, and you can actually open a hole from your the ceiling down below. It's just like the crawl spaces. They're doing that too with spray foam and sealing them up and actually air conditioning them. So we had a good time last night on 160, just two of us, and it's a shame. I wish more people would show up, but we had a long discussion on the technologies of lawnmowers that we have had over the years, and I'd mentioned the snapper lawnmower, and those had a continuously variable transmission on the snappers, and they had a rotating platter or disc like a record player that another disc edgewise rotated and turned on, and then you could run the smaller wheel in toward the middle for low gear and bring it gradually out to the edge of the platter for higher gear, higher speed. And it's a pretty neat trick as long as you had traction there. If it got wet, that could cause a problem. But I thought that was a pretty interesting thing, and I know a lot of cars these days are using CVT transmissions, and I think overall they don't really have all that great a reputation. Anyway, yeah, okay, on the attenuators, Dave, it's I'd like to have all 100 watt attenuators, and that way, no matter what I throw at it, it would do the job. And I'd like to have them switchable. I think it'd be great. I wonder why nobody's made a product like that. One box with a switch. You can just switch in any amount of attenuation you want. That would be nice to have. So, with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Buddy. WB4ARK, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WB4ARK. Okay, Steve. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Why don't somebody get on the get some plans out and design one and go into production? Well, we had a mower in, I think it was about 1960, and I do just trying to remember the name of it. But it was rather unique. It had 4 cutting blades on it. It had a solid steel disc that was driven by the crankshaft, and then in 4 concentric places on the outer edge of the disc was mounted a cutting blade. And they were very good mowers. They lasted a long time and did a great job of cutting the grass. Well, some of you might remember I had a problem with my ART-13 about almost a week ago. I think it was on Thursday of the week before, and so I don't know exactly what happened, but I noticed my mic cord was getting very warm right at the connector, and so the transmitter, the red light became a little dim, and it wouldn't key. So I lost contact, and I was in the middle of a transmission when it happened. I was right at the end of description of a situation with a circuit that I had. I mean, a package that I was, the mail system, how bizarre they were handling packages. And then it went into catastrophic failure here, so I had to switch over to the other transmitter and got back on at the next round on the net. But that was an interesting problem, and I have checked the unit, and I cannot find an issue with it. I don't know what happened. So there you go. Hope it doesn't come up again. So anyway, I use a D104 mic. I don't think there was a short in the mic, but who knows. Anyway, I'm using the same mic today, and the same plug, same cable. Everything's the same, so hopefully we don't run into that situation again. So anyway, over to John, KZ4B, WB4ARK.
Okay, WB4ARK and the group KZ4B, fine business, buddy. Boy, conditions are really excellent today. The band is both long and I'd say more long than short, but even short's working pretty good. And I copied about everything that George said, and which is not always the case. Shifting gears, I cut things short on Sunday because my wife's sister, the oncologist, now retired from Austin, Texas, was here with her family, and her son seems to be quite interested in ham radio. He did not get to witness our QSO. I cut it short because we were getting ready to go eat Mexican, and they were calling me up to say, get yourself in gear, we're going. Shifting gears again, Steve mentioned, we were talking about the hot wire ammeter on Sunday, and Steve, you mentioned it being, the current being a function of SWR. It's actually a function of the antenna impedance. You know, your power is I squared R. And so if, like you're going into a dummy load, you can fairly accurately measure your output power. And course, with the antenna, that impedance can be all over the place. And I guess with the proper equipment, you can measure your antenna impedance and calculate the power that way. But really, the purpose of it is just to peak the output power. It's not so much to measure the wattage, because it's a lot easier to use a wattmeter and let that do the calculation for you. Shifting gears again on lawnmowers, my dream lawnmower, and I have not run into one, or at least if I did, I probably could not afford it, is I have a zero-turn mower, and zero turns and automatics have a hydro motor for each wheel, and an automatic may just have one hydro motor, but the zero turn has one on each wheel, and steers like a tank or a track vehicle. But my dream is to have a hydro motor to drive the belt, or excuse me, the blade or blades, and then you wouldn't have to worry about belts. I hate belts, and although I got my mower refurbished this summer at great difficulty at my age, but and it's hanging in there, knock on wood. And on the attenuator, shifting gears again, my dream attenuator, they used to make rheostats that used a graphite or carbon block, and it was kind of in a vise that would compress the carbon block, and that would vary the resistance. So you could have a continuously variable attenuator. I'm sure somebody out there has made such an animal, but that would be a neat thing. And then, you could dial up anything you wanted, and I would imagine that you could, since rheostats usually handle a fair amount of current, you could handle a bunch of power as well. So, I have rambled on too far, too long as usual. So, over to George, K4GDN and the group KZ4B, over.
KZ4B in the group is K4GDN. And speaking of attenuators, I use a 6 dB homebrew made with big resistors, with resistors that kind of look like power transistors bolted onto a aluminum heatsink, and that's what I use for an attenuator when I'm running the Ranger, or let's see, the multi-LMAC into the homebrew 811 linear. Right now with the Helicrafter's HT32B, I've just got the power cut back. Putting, looks like a little over 10 watts, which might be a little high. Maybe run that back a little under 10 watts to the homebrew 811s. But like I say, it's a homebrew attenuator, and done with resistors mounted on an aluminum heatsink. And speaking of mowers, it sounded like Buddy may have been, I think it was Buddy, was describing the mower with the circular disc and then the four little blades mounted on the outside. Those blades were bolted on and they could rotate. Huffy did that back in the 50s. It was a very effective mower. However, they got regulated out of existence because they had problems with the bolts that held the outer blades on breaking and them slinging the blade out, and somebody got hurt pretty bad with one. But they did cut good. It was just a push mower. We had one. I think the first mower that I ever used when I was cutting the grass at home was a Huffy like that, and it did seem to work good, but they got outlawed. Excuse me. And Buddy, speaking of problems that appear and then disappear, they have a nasty habit of coming back again to haunt you. That always kind of bothers me. And speaking of Shelby, I plan to come up on Friday, and I've got a couple of receivers I would like to sell. If anybody's interested, I'd be happy to bring one. I've got an HQ 110A, 170A, excuse me, and an NC 300. I would like to sell. If anybody's interested, you can give me a heads up on the email or a phone call, whatever. I'd be glad to bring them up. I'm going to be staying in Spartanburg, but we're running up to Shelby on Friday. And the band seems to be doing pretty good. There is some QSB on some of the stations, but I'm copying everybody 100%. So with Cliff, it's coming to you. WB4NKL in the group, K4GDN.
K4GDN, it's WB4NKL. Okay, George, you about faded out a time or two on me that time, but got most of it. I hope you can make it to Shelby. Steve, I had one of those snapper mowers years ago, and it was a tough machine. That was maybe a weak point, that little variable transmission deal. But you could buy those it's a wheel with rubber that rode on that plate that was mounted onto the motor, and you could buy those for like $10, and when it wore out, and it was fairly easy to change, so that wasn't really a problem. But it had a good heavy deck, and I used it for years and replaced it with something. I don't remember. I think I just wanted something that had a bigger cut on it. It seemed like the snapper was only 30 inches or 32. But it was a tough machine. And on the dummy loads, I've got some of the power attenuators, you know, the probably 100 watts and 75 watts and different dB levels. It'd be nice to incorporate them into something that would be switchable, but it'd be a switching nightmare. Those power resistors you talk about mounted on a heat sink, if they make those in attenuators, would probably be the way to go to build one. I've used some of the 50 ohm power resistors on a heat sink, and they work out real good. So if they make attenuator chips like that, would probably be the basis of building one on a heat sink. And not too much else here. I'll send it on around, stick in for another one before I get out and get my walk in. Go ahead, Brian. KN4R, WB4NKL.
Okay, Cliff, very good. WB4NKL in the group, KN4R. Very good on all, copying everybody just fine here. Let's see, just wanted to let everybody know that my neighbor John Runsky, K4JCR, he is thinking long-term, and eventually they're going to move up to Northern Virginia, where all the grandkids and family are. And so he said he'd like to start selling off his radio collection. He's got a nice basement full. Best thing about John's stuff, it's all restored and working, and all in beautiful shape. So, for example, he's got a lot of Howards, more Howard receivers than I've ever seen in one place. Also, same thing goes for RME receivers. But he's got a basement full, including some antique radios. He's got 3 beautiful Zenith console radios, all very oddly shaped. Of course, with the big black dials. So anyway, I have pictures of everything, just discussing, his asking price versus bottom price and all that. As soon as I have something in hand, I'll see if John wants me to share it with the group. And talking about robot mowers, I was driving down Highway 150 a couple of weeks ago. It had rained that night, and I looked over to this housing development that has a berm between it and the road, and there was a blinking red light on top of a small robot mower, and so it was out of juice, and but there was clumps of grass all around it, and the grass was pretty wet too. So I'd say that mower was having a hard time that day. I guess it was on automatic
You know, supposed to mow at that particular time and day, regardless of whether or not the grass is wet or not. So anyway, back over to you, Charlie. ART sounds good. W4MEC in the group, KN4R.
KN4R in the group, W4MEC. I realize I've drifted down to 600 here. And, something ain't right. Hold on a second. Oh, I guess not. My scope is not up to snuff here, but I'm putting out 100 watts, so it must be okay. And anyway, good round, everybody. Good copy here. Several notes. Shingles and insulation. Shingles actually last longer if you insulate underneath between the roof rafters, and it's they found out that when you have a hot attic that gets hot, it heats the shingles up and they stay hot for a long time. But if you insulate, it actually insulates the bottom of the shingle and the roof from the heat in the attic, and the cycle between hot and cold is a lot quicker. So basically the shingles last longer if you insulate because of that cycle there. And they didn't think they used to believe that, but they do. You might want to check FAR radio, F-A-R radio circuits for their circuit boards. I vaguely remember an attenuator that uses those things. All they do is sell the circuit boards. You'll have to figure out the rest, and for those chip attenuators. So let's see. Last night there we had electric storm, so I wasn't about to get on 160. So sorry about that. Let's see. I was wondering about that hot wire ammeter, John. Doesn't that read both forward and reverse at the same time? So you actually get total power going back and forth. So we had a similar version of that to measure filament voltage in a tack-in that had an unusually shaped sine wave, and a regular meter would not give you the true indication of the current, or rather the voltage going to the klystron. And we had to use a version of a hot wire reading AC ammeter to set that. And I got another note here that I can't read. So anyway, oh, I know what it is. CVT transmissions. Nope, you want to stay away from them. You know, they always described them like the belt drive on the shopsmith saw, you know, with the variable pulley diameters. But when you look at the CVT transmission taken apart, I think it's got more parts in it than a regular transmission. So, and like you mentioned there, Steve, they do have issues. So over to Jimmy, K4JAL, W4MEC.
W4MEC, K4JAL. Well, snowmobile engines, snowmobiles have a double clutch situation in there that works like CTMs and works really well. I used to run a Formula 440 car in the Race Car Club of America, and it was geared up like that. Very reliable, good little car. Had to lay down in it to ride. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I do know that a snapper in the mountains was an adventurous machine, because if you went straight down a hill, you might end up in the next guy's yard. So much for that. I need to get out of here and go get on the elliptical and say good morning to my wife before she goes into the dungeon to work today. So, WA4LLR, K4JAL, 7-3, guys, enjoyed it.
All right, Jimmy. Well, have a good day, 7-3. Let me stand by one more time. Any late check-ins come now? Okay, guess we got everybody. Let's see here. CVT transmissions. Well, I'm not a fan of a CVT transmission for a lawnmower. I've had several, and they do pretty good if you've got a nice, level, very smooth lawn. It doesn't put any undue strain on them. But when you have a hillside, sloping lawns, terrain that's kind of rough, they don't last too long. I've been through many. I looked for a long time trying to find a lawnmower with a manual transmission, and I finally found a used one, and that worked really well. Currently, I passed it on to my son. Currently, I've got a Husqvarna that's got the blessed CVT in it. So far, it's holding up, but I'm not a fan. And I am concerned about, I've got a Nissan Rogue, and of course it has one, and all the mechanics tell me that a CVT is good for about 100,000 miles, and then that's it. So I guess I need to start looking around. Anyway, attenuators. Steve, I think Buddy had an idea there. I think you need to design that thing and build it, and either go into production or sell a kit. I think that would be a real boon to your fellow boat anchor people. But just a thought. Robot mowers. There was a rental company in Burnsville that used to do their mowing around their building with a robot. And I was impressed because part of it was on a pretty good incline, and that thing would get out there and just go to town on it. And for a short period of time thought about, man, that would be nice to sit out on the porch and have some iced tea and watch the robot do the hard work. But then I got to checking on the prices of one that had could deal with the angles that I have. And said, I guess I'll mow a while longer. Anyway, well, let's go one more round. I think the only one that checked out was Jimmy, I believe. N4LQ, WA4LLR.
WA4 LLR, N4LQ. Yeah, robot mower. This reminded me of that robot vacuum cleaner we had here for a while. It just kind of bumped around the house, bumped into this and that, and finally supposedly covered the whole floor. I hope lawnmowers don't do that. That'd be pretty bad if they had to bump into things. And I don't know how they work. I guess they probably work about like a Tesla car on auto drive, and I would be afraid it may turn on me someday. A lot of the Nissan cars, the Murado for one, have CVTs. I think some Subarus do, and maybe a few others. And they got a reputation for not lasting long and requiring a replacing. Apparently they're not easy to fix. They are cheaper because they have much fewer moving parts, and they're all computer control. Of course, they use some kind of a pulley that expands, I believe, and lets the belt drop down in it further, or something to that effect. And you can do that with two pulleys and one belt, and one pulley gets bigger, the other one will get smaller just by being cone-shaped, and that'll work. But obviously that belt takes a beating, and it's expensive to get those things fixed. And I've driven a Nissan Murano, and I didn't really care for the way it sounded when it sounds like you have a slipping transmission, like it's winding up and you keep waiting for it to shift and it doesn't want to, but it knows when where the most efficient ratio is, and it maintains that. And I'm looking at Charlie, the FAR radio, FAR circuits. Yeah, apparently that's what you're talking about, farcircuits.net. And they've got hundreds of circuit boards you can buy. really interesting. So far, I haven't seen an attenuator. As a variable attenuator would be wonderful if they could make such a thing. Now, it takes 3 or 4 resistors to make it come out 50 ohms, and that gets pretty complicated. I know they make one for super low power for audio and stuff like that, but to handle 100 watts, I think that would be a pretty good size beast. And the problem with marketing these things is you might find 2 or 3 boat anchor users out there that want them, but I don't think you can make a living off of it. But it would be nice to have. And you mentioned a Huffy Moore, buddy. The Huffy was the first one that we had when I was a kid. And Huffy was on the leading edge of a few things, and they had the flip-over handle, and the Moore handle was hinged at the center of the Moore deck instead of on the end. Usually it's on the back end. They hinged it in the middle, and then when you get to the end of the row, you just flip the handle over and push it back the other way. And I love that. Boy, that was the greatest feature. And then somebody invented the throttle cable and put it on the handle. And Huffy said, well, that ain't going to work for us. So they did away with their flip-over handle idea. But I really did like that feature on the Huffy Moores. So over to you, buddy. WB4ARK, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WB4ARK. Okay, Steve. Well, the mower I was describing was not a Huffy. It was a 4-blade mower, and it came available, I think, in the early 60s, like 61, 62, something like that. My neighbor had one first, and then I got one. I really liked it. It was a boat mower. Not a boat that held the blade onto the deck. I didn't hear of any coming off and hitting anybody, so I think the ammeter you're talking about is a thermocouple ammeter. I also call a hot wire ammeter, but I believe they're basically the same. Thermocouples can be mounted separately or can be mounted internal in the meter. The ART13 uses a meter like that. It goes up to 5 amps. But the thing you have to be very careful about is over current. You put too much current to it, burn the thermocouple in too. So that's an issue with the meter. And it is rather slow, but it does once it comes up, it does react pretty quickly. Mine is reacting to my modulation, and it's reading about 1 amp right now, going to the antenna. So it actually reads the current to the antenna. It's flowing through the thermocouple itself. So I think that's about it. Thanks, Dave, for calling the net today. And still looks like rain out there, heavily overcast. So we'll see what happens today. I don't think we need any more rain right now, but we'll take what we can get. So, KZ4B, WB4ARK.
Okay, WB4ARK in the group KZ4B, fine business, buddy. That was a good definition of a hot wire ammeter. It is indeed a thermocouple ammeter. And as Charlie was mentioning, the current can go either way, and it reads it. It's because it's just the current heats the wire. So when I check the calibration on one, I just use a D-cell battery and or something larger if you need it, depending on the range of the meter. The D-cell battery puts out 2 or 3 amps when shorted out. And whether you put it in forward or reverse with a D-cell battery, it reads the same. And your DC current is the same as the RMS RF current equivalent. So it's a good way to check to make sure that it's working and to actually check the calibration of the meter. But that brings up an interesting point. If there is reflected current, you would think that it would read that as well as the forward current, and that might make it read higher than the actual radiated current is. Hadn't thought about that, but that could make it overly optimistic. But again, the calibration really doesn't matter. You're just trying to peak the output current. And shifting gears, Charlie mentioned a TACAN. When I was a teenager, I did a science fair project and built a radar set. I could actually detect a mountain. I lived in southwest Charlotte and could see Crowder's Mountain, and my radar would pick up Crowder's Mountain, and I lived 3 miles from the airport, and it would actually pick up an airplane that was flying, like taking off or landing, that I could see line of sight. And but where I'm going with all this is I had a surplus APR-5 radar jamming receiver, and I use that on 1296 for liaison. I use that as a receiver to go with an APX6 transmitter, and I got permission to operate on 1296 from the airport to a building in downtown Charlotte, the top of the Liberty Life building. And I didn't think about it, but the local oscillator in the APR-5 jamming receiver, which was actually quite strong, it was I think it was a 2C43 lighthouse tube, put out enough that I shut down the TACAN at the airport. And they really got pissed off about that. So I got booted out of the airport. I told them that, I wasn't going to get off frequency with a transmitter, and I didn't. But I was tuning around with the TACAN receiver, or with the APR-5 jamming receiver, and shut the TACAN down. So I was a juvenile delinquent, so to speak. But I could hit the Liberty Life building and had solid communications on 1296 until I got kicked out. So thanks for calling the net, Dave. Conditions were quite good today, unusually good, and I like that. We had winter type conditions on a summer day. You can't beat that combination. There was a little QS Baker, but it's just lightly fluttery, and everybody's just booming in. Love it. So over to George. If you can still hear me, George. K4GDN in the group, KZ4B clear but listening.
KZ4B in the groups, K4GDN. Yeah, I'm copying you real well, John. Everybody's coming in here. There is some QSB on some of the signals, but everybody's readable, 100%. And it was me that mentioned the Huffy Moore. And I don't know if it was actually the Huffy that lost one of the blades or another similar Moore, but I think I've seen some similar things on some of the ones they're using by the county or state, sometimes coming on roads. But anyway, the Huffy was a nice little Moore. We got good service out of it. That was I believe that was the only lawnmower I had while I was in high school and having to cut the grass at home. Anyway, with that, Dave, thanks for calling in. Enjoyed it this morning. Look forward to being in here on Thursday anyway. And with that, I'll pass it on to Cliff. WB4NKL in the group, K4GDN. 73, guys.
Yeah, K4GDN. It's WB4NKL. Okay, George, good copy of that time. I've got to look into, I use a little push mower for trimming, and one I've had's about 20 years old and about time to replace it, so I've got to look around for a push type, small, maybe 18 or 19 inch cut, which I've looked a little bit. And I remember the last time I bought one, they were in the $50 range, and now they're in the $200 range, so it's like everything else. Prices went up. 73s, enjoyed it, and thanks for calling it, Dave, and we will try to catch everybody there Thursday. Go ahead, Brian. KN4R, WB4NKL.
Okay, Cliff, WB4NKL in the group, KN4R. Well, I'll go ahead and say 73s as well. Enjoyed it. Hope everybody has a great day. I got to get out and do a few things before the rains pass through here. So over to you, Charlie, W4MEC in the group, KN4R. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, Brian, KN4R in the group, W4MEC. Real good. Buddy, I was wondering if you ever read the current in the mic circuit, the push-to-talk circuit. I wonder how much it draws when it's keyed as to the heat at the mic plug, maybe being a connection with a little resistance in it, and it was heating up due to that. Let's see. I still have a snapper mower, and it's 33 years old, and I've had to replace a bearing in the cross shaft for that the mechanism you're talking about, the drive wheels. A bearing wore out, and it wouldn't put a proper tension to the disc. And it needs, amazingly, it needs tires. The tread's about worn out. I mean, there's hardly any tread left, and while the mechanism, the transmission's still moving the power, the wheels slip on the grass sometimes going uphill. And I've had it for, 33 years, and I've never, ever replaced the belt between the crankshaft, the shaft going to the blade, and the transmission. There's a small belt there, and it's still the original belt. So I have replaced the drive belt to the wheel, but not that one. And the mower I was thinking about, the first one that popped in my head when you said manual transmission, there's Dave, was that old, remember those big wheels? They had two little wheels up front, and they had some giant wheels in the back, maybe 18 inches in diameter, and they were spoked. And when you put it in gear, this cog drive wheel pushed on the top of that, those two big wheels, and one on each side, and that was your drive mechanism. That little cog wheel engaged that the big wheel there when you pull the lever there. I always wanted one of those. And the little lawnmower there, Cliff, I've got one that I bought when my son was up in Boone, trying to go to college, but more or less working. He lived in an apartment, and part of the deal, a house being rented as an apartment, and part of the deal was he had to cut the grass, so we bought him a mower. A plain old Walmart special, and I still have that thing, and this is, it's been 22 years or something like that. Playing a steel deck, 5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton, no throttle, no transmission, it's a push mower, and that's my bush hog. That will do everything. So, and that's what I was using on my son's tall grass yesterday after I got it whacked down. But anyway, those things are relatively inexpensive, and they will last just about forever with that Briggs motor on it. So anyway, thanks for running the net, Dave, and we'll see you all later on. I hope it stops raining here a little bit one of these days. So 7-3 all. Okay, I think Jimmy left. I'm not sure, but if he's not, K4JAL, W4MEC. Bye.
Yep, I think Jimmy went to the elliptical, as he says. All righty. Well, fellas, I've enjoyed it this morning. As John said, good, almost wintertime band conditions. So, hope everybody has a great day. 7-3, God bless, and Lord willing, we will catch up with you again on Thursday. So this is WA4LLR, Dave in Burnsville, North Carolina, closing this session of the Old Friends Net, 7-3.